is not.
Make it big.
So it's 6:59 right now. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give people like another couple minutes just to hop on. I think Chanel is supposed to hop on as well. So I'm just gonna give people a couple minutes just to get settled in. I'm glad y'all were able to make it. If y'all run into any issues during the class, please feel free to just write it into the chat. And I'm going to do my best throughout the class just to make sure that I'm checking that. So I'm going to try to mute my everything else. All right, and those of you that are just hopping on, that just make sure that you guys mute yourself. I was just telling everybody else that was here a little bit earlier that we'll get started in like a couple minutes. We're just gonna give everybody a little bit of time to get hopped onto the call, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Same thing as last time. If you weren't here last time, my name is Leah. I'm a yoga instructor here in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been teaching for about 5-ish years or something like that. So this is going to be, I think this is our second class that we've done for you all. So I'm really excited about this. Chanel has requested that we do, for the first 30 minutes, that we go into dancer pose. So we're going to do a lot with shoulders, a lot with opening up through the chest, and then a lot of quad releasing and hip flexors. So just it's a big old, in my opinion, mumbo jumbo of a pose, but it's got a lot of really good things to kind of break down into it. So the first 30 minutes are going to be that flowy, little bit moving faster type of movement, and please feel free. Never feel as though you have to do everything. That's the beauty about yoga, is that you can modify it to whatever you need, whether you're just feeling a little bit tired today, whether you're sore, or whether it's just something that you're like, I'm not quite there yet. That's totally fine. Same thing with the yin. If it starts to get too uncomfortable for you, if you start to feel any sort of pain, always feel free to come out of it. This is your body, it's not mine. This is also your practice. So anything that I'm giving to you is just to try to help guide you through that fuller and deeper practice. And also feel free, if you want to, you can turn your camera on and show your pretty face. I'd love to see it. But if not, if you don't feel comfortable, you can go ahead and leave the camera off. No worries. Just make sure that your mic is off, because that's super helpful. And I am so sorry, but I did not create a new playlist, but same playlist as last time. If you go into my Spotify, if you like listening to music, I've got under Leah Jo Turner, it's the VIN Quarantine. Same music as last week. I promise I'll make a new one next week. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. The only two things that I would say that you might want to have is definitely a blanket, and then I would also recommend a pillow. You may or may not need the pillow. It would kind of act like a bolster. So go ahead and take your blanket. If you've got a blanket, make sure it's folded at least kind of like this, so not quite super long, but also not really short either. You basically want it to be the length of your spine. And you're gonna take it and roll it into like a nice Tootsie Roll of sorts, like this. And then place it at the top part of your mat. And then go ahead and bring your lumbar right up towards the end. And then recline all the way back down. And depending on the length of your spine, your head may or may not fall off the back of the blanket, and that's totally fine. If you prefer for that to have a little bit more of a chest opener, that's fine. If it doesn't feel very good, take that pillow and just place it underneath your head to give yourself that support. And then your feet can be mat width distance apart with your knees together, or soles of the feet together, knees wide, totally up to you. Arms, same thing. You can cactus them out. You can bring them up and overhead, grabbing opposite elbows, and just slightly tilting the chin in towards your chest. And then go ahead and just hit play on that playlist if you are going for it. And I will not be playing any of the music just so it doesn't distract you all if you all do not want any music. Just taking this time to turn inward, whatever you had going on this week. Maybe you're working from home, or maybe you are someone that is still venturing out and going into their workplace. Whether your eyes are closed or maybe you have one spot that you're focusing on in the ceiling. Just working to get grounded. And just like last time, maybe there's an intention that you would like to set for yourself just before we start to move into our full practice, before we start flowing. So maybe that's a mantra for you that you like to hold on to. Maybe it's just a word. A word that I've personally been using lately is acceptance. Acceptance of the now, acceptance of the moment. There's a quote that I love that I used to say at the end of every single one of my classes, but it's separation of life does not exist when you live breath by breath and moment by moment. There is only life itself happening right now. And that always reminds me to focus on the now. Where am I? What am I doing? Take inventory of what's going on and simply be here with yourself. You're taking this precious time out of your day to be here for you. There's nowhere else that you have to be. I'm going to take 2 cleansing breaths together. So wherever you are at, just go ahead, part your lips, and let all of the breath start to spill out. Just get empty completely. Seal the lips. Inhale, fill up through your nose. Let the belly fill, let the belly rise. Let the chest fill. Let the back of the throat fill. Hold. Pause. Open mouth, sigh it out. Just let it go, release. And then one more, just like that, sealing the lips back up. Take an inhale. Fill up through the nose. Fill up through the belly. Let the chest expand. Hold. Pause. Open mouth, sigh it out. Let it go. And then from here, go ahead. If your feet are, mat width distance apart, go ahead and just heel toe your feet to where they're just slightly inside the mat, so knees are separated. And then you're just gonna start to windshield wiper those knees side to side. They're just getting into the outer hips. And then if there's a nice sweet spot, you can go ahead and stop on the right side. So we still have the spine onto that blanket. If it feels good, if you'd like to stay here, you can intensify it a little bit more by picking that right foot up and placing it on top of the left knee, and just encourage that left knee down. If it's too much, ditch it. Keeping the shoulders nice and squared. Might feel a little bit of instability on the blanket, but that's fine. Your knees might also be hanging in space here, and again, totally fine. Take a breath, inhale. Stay on your exhale. One more. And exhale. Remove that right foot on top of the left knee. Bring the knees back up through center. Again, feet are just right in between, right on the inside of that mat. And then drop the knees over to the left. And if it feels okay, you can pick that left foot up and just place it right on top of that right knee. Just encourage that knee down. Take an inhale. Stay on that exhale. One more. Stay on the exhale. Promise we'll get moving here soon. Remove that left foot on top of the right knee. Bring the knees back up through center. And then just pick the hips up and over to the left. And then just roll slowly off that blanket onto the right. And just pausing here in that kind of fetal position. Stacking the hips and stacking the shoulders. Remove the blanket behind you. Just place it off to the side. We'll probably use it later. And then go ahead and roll all the way onto your back. And then from here, go ahead and keep your knees about hip width distance apart with your feet lifted to about a parallel, nice and parallel onto the floor. So from here, you're gonna take your hands on top of your knees. You really wanna press your sacrum down into the mat. So from here, you're gonna press your hands into your knees and press your knees into your hands and just feel that nice core activation. It's nice and subtle here. So there's really nothing more that we're doing other than just pressing into the knees, pressing the knees back into the hands, firing up through the core. Then take an inhale here. Stay on your exhale. Last breath here, inhale. And stay on that exhale. Good. Extend your arms up and overhead. Find that nice length into your body, and then reach those feet forward towards the front of the room. Continue to press your sacrum down into the mat. Nice little slight hollow body hold here. And again, just firing up through that core. Take an inhale. Stay on your exhale. One more inhale. And exhale, hug the knees into your chest, and then just rock shoulders to feet. Let's get some momentum in to create that movement with the breath. Once you found a nice few rocks and rolls, go ahead and roll over onto your knees. Tabletop position. Hands are going to be slightly in front of the shoulders. Knees are directly stacked underneath the hips. And then we'll just start with a couple of cat-cows. Your feet can be tucked or untucked, totally up to you. On your inhale breath, untuck the tailbone. Press the belly down towards the mat, press the chest through, look up towards the ceiling. Think of buckling the mat together with your hands and your knees. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, arch your back, round the spine, pull the chin into your chest. Inhale, come forward into that cow pose. Exhale into your cat. Last one, inhale, round through your spine. I'm sorry, not rounding through your spine. Let the belly drop, press the chest through. Now exhale, round into your spine. Good, find that nice neutral tabletop position. And then from here, just extend the right leg back towards the back of the room, keeping the hips nice and squared here. Crown of the head is forward towards the front of the room. Keep your balance here. Pull in the pit of the belly. Just keep that core activation like we did before and reach that left arm forward. Take an inhale here. On your exhale, stay. So just kind of creating this stability here, pressing down equally between that left knee and that right hand. If it feels good here, you can stay, or you can start to bend at that knee, reach that left arm around, and then reach for the top of that foot. And if your hand doesn't quite meet the foot, that's totally okay to just reach with that left hand and then kick that right foot up towards the ceiling. That's actually going to create a lot of instability, so it's going to help work the core even more. If you have the bind, kick the foot into the hand and open through the chest. We haven't done much with the hip flexor, so this may feel a little tight. I know it does for me. Try not to let, that knee drop. Keep kicking that foot into your hand. Inhale, open through the chest. Stay on that exhale. Don't let that foot slingshot if you have it. Reach. Reach that left arm forward, right leg is back, and then round knee into nose. Inhale, find your length. Exhale, round, knee into nose. Last time, inhale, length, and knee into nose, round. Good, re-extend through that arm, re-extend through that leg, hold, take an inhale. Lower both hands and knees on your exhale, take a couple rounds of cat-cow. Just get back into the spine, connecting breath with movement here. That's what vinyasa means, is movement with breath. So if you ever feel like the breath is stuck, you're ever holding your breath, come out of the pose, and then return back to your breath before finding that movement again. Neutral tabletop position, extend that left leg back. Shoulders are out of the ears. Keep your breath steady. Inhale, reach that right arm forward. Take an inhale. Stay on your exhale. Keep squaring off the hips. Keep pulling in the pit of the belly. And thinking of shaking a person's hand in front of you to keep that shoulder out of your ear. You can stay, or you can start to kick that right foot back towards that outer left hip. Reach with your right arm around inside of the foot, okay? Once you have the foot, kick that foot into your hand, open through your chest. You can look forward. I like to look about 6 inches in front of me. Take an inhale. It's okay if you're tight here. We really haven't done anything yet. One more inhale. Stay on your exhale. Try not to let that foot slingshot release. Nice control. Take an inhale. Knee to nose round. Inhale, find your length. Exhale, round. Inhale, length. Exhale, round. Inhale, find your length, extend. Lower the right hand, lower the left knee, tuck the toes. Just hover the knees, turbo tabletop position. I really hope y'all saw me just fall then. Teachers fall too. So from here, whenever you're powering up that turbo tabletop, again, same type of core activation that we did whenever we were on our backs here. Crown of the head is forward. Take an inhale here. Walk that right foot back. Walk the left foot back, high plank pose. This is too much for you, drop down to those knees. No shame here, okay? Okay, one breath here, inhale. Stay on that exhale. Shift the weight forward, inhale. Use your knees if you need to. I'll show modified version. Lower halfway down, chaturanga. Hold for 5, 4. Squeeze the elbows into the midline. 2, 1. Untuck the toes. This time, keep the hands right underneath your shoulders. I know we like to take it wide sometimes. Keep the hands right underneath the shoulders, squeezing the elbows. Feel the head and the chest up, cobra. Dig the toenails down into the mat. Exhale, lower. 2 more times, inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Last time, inhale. Exhale, lower. Tuck the toes. Kick the heels back. Use your knees if you need to. Press up, high plank pose. Nice straight long line. Downward facing dog. Roll over the toes. So from here in this downward facing dog, you can look up to the screen, just real quick, spread those hands nice and wide. Think of a starfish. You want to turn your hands out to where your index fingers face forward towards the front of your mat. You should be able to see the color of your mat between each finger, okay? And I've harped on it before, I do not care if your heels touch the mat. What I care most about is the length into your spine. So if your hamstrings are tight, bend into those knees. I promise it helps. And then we're just gonna find some nice intentional pedaling here. So take a really big bend into both knees, press the belly back towards the tops of the thighs, let the shoulders roll back, and then lower that right heel down. Keep a nice big bend into your left knee. Take an inhale. Stay on the exhale. Bend into both knees. Press the belly back towards the tops of the thighs, and then lower the left heel down. Really big bend into the right knee. 1 breath, inhale. Stay on your exhale. Good, really big bend into both knees. Press the belly back towards the tops of the thighs. Keep the length into your spine and then start to lower your heels down. Even if they don't connect, it's great. Inhale, come forward, high plank pose. Round the spine forward, use your knees, drop them down if you need to. Shift the weight forward, inhale, lower halfway down, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Upward facing dog if you want, cobra if not. Thighs are lifted off the mat if you're an up dog. Roll over the toes, downward facing dog. Good, lift that right leg up towards the ceiling, take an inhale. Kick. Literally think of just driving that heel into the back of the wall behind you. Hips are nice and squared, and you're dropping the head back, okay? Pulling the pit of the belly here, take an inhale. Now start to stack that right hip on top of the left hip, bend at the knee, stack the hips open, and notice, what does that left heel do? Is it starting to also twist over to the left? If it is, bring it right back. And that might mean you need to lower that right knee down a little bit. That's fine. Open here, take an inhale. Re-square up the hips. Keep driving that heel back towards the back of the room, knee to nose round. Shoot it up and back, 3-legged dog. Knee to right elbow, tap it, step it onto the outside of that right hand. Drop the back knee down. And optional here, you can use a pillow. You can use your blanket under here. If you want to put your forearms down, we'll kind of turn to face you all. If you want, you can put your forearms down. You can keep your hands down here. So we're just getting into that outer hip here. The biggest thing is sinking those hips down, okay? And we're just gonna kind of hold here for a little bit. If you really are looking for some fire, those toes can be tucked and you can lift that back knee, okay? Lowering the forearms down. And we're just gonna take a round of breath here, inhale. Stay on the exhale. If you would like to stay in this, stay. Or if you'd like to move on into a little bit of a quad stretch, this will help set us up for dancer pose. Take the left hand really far off the mat, like way the heck far off the mat. I know it's kind of hard to see. And then from here, right hand is gonna reach all the way around, bend into that back knee, and then drive that heel toward that outer left hip. And then you can reach for that foot. Even if you can't reach that foot, that's great. Still thinking of driving that heel into that outer left hip is gonna help tremendously. So another big thing here, in order to get that nice stretch into that left hip flexor, try not to get your hips out of it. If your hips start to reach back, then back off of it, okay? So you wanna sink your hips down as much as possible. Open through the chest. Take an inhale. Stay on your exhale. One more inhale. Good, stay on that exhale and release that foot once you have. Heel toe that right foot back into the center of your mat. Hands are gonna frame the foot. Tuck the back toes. Lift the back knee into a nice runner's lunge. Crown of the head is forward, okay? And then from here, just walk that back foot in, pyramid pose, set yourself up. So if you notice here that you have a pretty big bend into that right knee, then go ahead and walk that foot onto the knife edge of the right side and try to bend into the back knee here, okay? So if you're gonna keep a leg straight, keep that right leg straight so that way you can still get the hamstring stretch. It's totally fine if that left knee is bent, okay? Once you're here in that pyramid pose, halfway lift, reset the spine here. So maybe you're just hovering your hands and you're collecting the cord here. Shoulders are gonna roll back. Exhale, fold forward here. So we're just really working on getting into that hamstring. A lot of dancer pose is a nice big hamstring stretch. So we're just gonna stay here for a breath. Inhale. And exhale. One more, inhale. And exhale. Walk the hands forward. Look forward towards the front of your mat. Big bend into that right foot and then lift that left foot up, standing L-shaped pose. Crown of the head is forward, okay? Pull in the pit of the belly, take an inhale, hover the fingertips. Try not to let that left hip stack on top of the right hip. Keep everything nice and squared. You can bring your hands to heart center or you can reach your arms back behind you, warrior three. Take a breath here, inhale. Good. From here, go ahead and lower that left foot down into a nice runner's lunge. Again, you're gonna anchor down that back foot and then rise up warrior one. So you may need to do some adjusting with your feet here. So warrior one, similar to warrior two. So that back heel is down at a nice angle. You're squaring off your hips towards the front of your mat, like crescent lunge. I don't teach this pose very often, to be totally honest. Inhale, reach your arms back behind you, interlace your hands at your low back. Drag the knuckles back, open through the chest. Take an inhale, maybe take a little back bend here, and then reach the crown of the head forward, reaching the knuckles up towards the ceiling. Okay, you can stay here with the crown of the head forward, keep driving that back heel down or lower all the way down into a nice humble warrior. Maybe you can kiss your cat or your dog if they're with you, or a kid. And then the goal here is to try to reach those knuckles as far away from your spine as possible to open more through the chest. This is really intense. Keep drawing that right hip back. One breath, inhale. And exhale. Release your hands down. Frame your front foot. Lift that back heel up and then draw that right knee into your nose, round into your spine. Shoot it up and back, three-legged dog. This is hard stuff, y'all. What you're doing here is not easy. Take an inhale, lower that right foot down. Come forward, high plank pose. Shift the weight forward, lower halfway down. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Upward facing dog or cobra. Thighs are lifted if you're in upward. Roll over the toes, downward facing dog. Really good. Inhale, lift that left leg up towards the ceiling. Take as many breaks as you need to. I'm gonna keep going, so you feel free to stop, pause, whatever you need. Drive that left heel back towards the back of the room. Shoulders are out of the ears. Take an inhale. Stay on your exhale. Start to stack that left hip on top of the right. Bend at the knee, stack open the hips. Check in with yourself. Are you using your ego here because you're really trying to get that left hip on top of the right? If you're noticing that right heel is starting to go way, 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 way over to the right, bring it back. Alignment is first. Same thing in lifting. Take a breath, inhale. Re-square off the hips. Re-extend that leg, knee to nose round. Shoot it up and back, three-legged dog. Knee to left elbow, try to tap it, and then step it up onto the outside of that left hand. Now you choose, dropping that back knee down, use your blanket, use your pillow. You can stay up onto your hands, whatever's gonna feel good to you, just to get into that outer hip and into the groin. This is also going to kind of touch that hip flexor here as well. Just a few breaths. Think about one more here before moving on if you want to. You can kind of see it a little bit better on this side. If you want to move forward into that quad stretch, take that right hand way far off of your mat. Left hand, you're going to reach all the way back. Kick that right heel towards that outer right hip, and then you can reach for the foot, sinking the hips down. This is also going to open through the shoulders just a little bit and open through the chest. One inhale. Stay on the exhale. One more inhale. And release that foot on the exhale. Take your left foot, center of the mat, frame the foot with your hands, tuck the back toes, lift that back knee, runner's lunge. Fingertips are down. You're gonna pause here for just a moment, inhale. And then on your exhale, walk that back foot in. And again, just like the other side, you may notice that this side is a little tighter, maybe a little bit more open. For me, this is my tighter side. So I kind of have to walk that foot off just a little bit. Halfway lift, inhale. Reset the spine, pull that left hip back, right hip forward. Get into that left hamstring here, and then drop the crown of the head, if possible. Take one breath here, inhale. Stay on the exhale. Really good. Walk the hands forward, lift up halfway. Re-bend into that front knee. Walk the hands forward, and then lift that right foot up, standing L-shaped pose. Square off the hips. Drive that heel back towards the back of the room. Hover the fingertips. Maybe draw your hands to heart center, full warrior three. Set yourself up here. Take an inhale. Reach the right toes back, and then anchor down through that right foot. Warrior one. Say hello to my cat. She's gonna be joining us for today. So sinking down to that warrior one, trying to square up the hips as much as possible. It may not happen as much with the hips. It may happen more with the shoulders, and that's great. And release your hands at your low back. Try to use a different thumb on top this time, just to switch it up. Drive the knuckles back, open through the chest, sink the hips down low. And then come forward, lifting the knuckles off of your spine, maybe lowering all the way down, coming into your full humble warrior. Keep driving down through the knife edge of that back foot. One breath, inhale. Stay on the exhale. Release the hands. Again, don't let them slingshot. Frame the foot with the hands. Draw that left knee into your nose. Round through your spine. Maybe it takes a couple steps here. That's great. Shoot it up and back. Three-legged dog. Square off through the hips. And then lower the left toes down. Inhale, come forward. High plank pose. Shift the weight. Inhale. Lower halfway down. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, upward facing dog or cobra. Downward facing dog, roll over the toes. Inhale, look forward towards the front of your mat. Keep the legs nice and straight as much as possible, and then start to take little small tiptoes up to the front of your mat. Maybe you walk your hands back. Okay? Come to a nice ragdoll pose, taking the feet hip width distance apart. Maybe nice little bend into your knees, get more into your low back. Grab opposite elbows, let the head hang. I'm going to adjust the screen here, just so you all can see what I'm doing in the stancer pose. Okay, sweet. Good. And then release the hands if you have them nice and bound, and then just one vertebrae at a time, slowly roll all the way up to standing. Nice, so hopefully you can see me. we're gonna start moving into our peak pose, which is dancer pose. So I know you can't really see my feet, but you want your feet hip width distance apart. The best way to do that is to take your two fists and then put your two fists in between your feet. It's gonna be the best way to figure out if you're hip width distance apart. Spread your toes nice and wide onto your left foot. The biggest thing about, well, any balancing pose is a focal point. So try to give yourself a place to focus on and keep it there the entire time. So dancer pose is not only a hamstring stretch, it's a heart opener, it's a back bend, it's a shoulder stretch, it's a hip flexor stretch, it's all the things. So take with it in bus stops, do what feels good, ditch the rest if it doesn't feel as good, okay? But also push yourself. If you haven't done it before, try something new. So you're gonna spread your toes nice and wide onto that left foot, okay? Nice little bend into your knees as well. And then from here, kind of turn just so you can see me. Bring your left hand onto your hip at first, just to give yourself a nice place to stabilize. Right arm is gonna reach out like you're serving a plate of food, okay? So once you shift your weight into that left foot, kick that right heel up towards your booty. And then you're gonna take that hand onto the inside of your foot. So not the outside, but the inside, okay? Everybody can see me. And we also have a tendency here to wanna let that knee reach all the way out to the right. Don't let it, keep it nice and squared, okay? Keep driving that heel down. Reach that left arm up towards the ceiling. Nice little bend into that standing leg. Same thing when we were in tabletop. From here, don't just lean forward and let it do the business for you. Kick that foot into your hand, open through your chest first, keep that focal point, and then you can start to tip forward. So it's this big push-pull of kicking that foot into your hand and then pulling your body forward. Once you get that kick and you cannot kick anymore, then keep kicking. That's the biggest thing here. Once you don't think you can kick anymore, kick a little harder, okay? And then try not to let that right hip open up here. You wanna keep everything nice and squared. Take an inhale. If you fall out of it, I do every single time, come right back into it. One more breath, inhale. Come all the way back through center. Release, shake it out. Roll through the shoulders, and roll through the ankles a little bit. It's a doozy of a pose. I'm someone that always falls out of it. It's totally fine. Your balance is going to be different day to day. Totally fine. It's just a practice. So next side. Shift the weight into that right foot. Right hand onto your hip. Left arm reaches out like you're serving a plate of food. And then you're gonna take that left hand onto the inside of that left foot. Reach that right arm all the way up towards the ceiling. Nice big, a nice little bend into that standing leg. Kick the foot into the hand first. Once you can't kick anymore, then you can start to tip forward. And maybe you've got something near you that you can hold on to. That's great. If you're wanting to work more on the techniques of the pose instead of your balance, that's fine. You're gonna build a little bit more balance or a little bit more strength rather. If you don't, it's totally up to you. Take one breath here, inhale. Stay on your exhale. And release your foot. Rise all the way up to standing. Thanks, y'all. Take an inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Plant through your hands, step back, high plank pose. Flow through your vinyasa without me. So that's gonna be your high to low plank into your upward facing dog or cobra. I'm gonna adjust the screen again. Into your downward facing dog. Last little bit here, and then we are on the floor. Inhale, come forward, high plank pose. Shift the weight forward, inhale. Lower all the way down to your belly. Okay? So just at first, stack your arms on top of each other, and then lower your forehead down. And then if it feels good for you, take your knees a little bit wider than hip width distance, and then just bend through your knees and kind of windshield wiper your legs side to side. Two options here. We're gonna move into locust pose and floor bow. These are two very, very challenging poses. They're great back strengthening poses. You may notice if you have a little bit of like tummy issues, or if it's your cycle, it may not feel as good. So if you're not someone that wants to do anything on your tummy, you can come into this nice Sphinx pose here with your elbows underneath your shoulders. If you would like to move on, reach your arms back behind you. Really think of squeezing your ankles in together. Roll the shoulders up, back and down, reach your arms back behind you. Think cobra pose. Lift the head, lift the shoulders, and then this time lift the legs. Reach your arms back. You can also interlace your hands at your low back. Kick, inhale. Stay on your exhale. One more inhale. Lower down, exhale, favorite cheek down onto your mat. And again, you can kind of wiggle your hips side to side. Give yourself a nice release. Sticking with that is great. So we're gonna do it one more time. If you want to stick with that, do it. If you wanna move on and do floor bow, similar to what we just did. So instead of this time reaching onto the inside of your ankles, you're gonna do the opposite. Reach around for the outside of your ankles. Another thing here, just like before, you don't want your knees splaying all the way out to your mat edges. Keep everything nice and squared in line with your hips, okay? So if you have your ankles, roll the shoulders up, back and down, flex through your heels, kick into your hands, and then lift. Open through your chest. Take an inhale. Stay on your exhale. One more inhale. And lower all the way down, exhale. Windshield wiper your legs side to side. Different cheek down onto your mat. You have made it. You have arrived to the last 30 minutes of practice. We're just gonna flow down. So grab a sip of water if you need to, I know I do. But we will be meeting onto our bellies. So if you do not need a sip of water, just go ahead and stay there. Those floor bows are a doozy. So staying down onto the floor, keep your arms into that nice capital T shape position. Kick that left heel towards that outer left hip, and then you're just gonna roll onto that right hip, and then place that left foot down. So your hands are still in that T. I think we did this last time, and if we did, I apologize, but this is a great pose for the shoulders and for the low back. You can take that left hand and then reach around for a half bind, or you can plant your hand in front of your face and press open through that shoulder a little bit more. And your heart may be elevated here, and that's totally fine. Just letting it come down nice and slow, keeping the natural rhythm of your breath, trying to move into more consistent breath here. Take about 3 more breaths here. Come all the way back onto your belly. And then switch sides. Left arm reaches out to the left. You're gonna keep that right arm at a T first, and then just bend through that right knee, and then roll onto your left hip. You can see me a little bit better on this side, but maybe you walk that right hand closer to your face. Maybe you do a nice half bind with that right hand. Maybe you close your eyes. the heart rate come down. Maybe you start coming back to that word or the mantra that you had set for yourself at the beginning of class. Take 3 more breaths here. Inhale. 2 more. Inhale. Come all the way back over into your belly. And slide your hands back underneath you. Take your knees nice and wide. Child's pose. So just letting the head rest, letting the forehead rest down onto the mat, shoulders are out of the ears. You can keep your hands nice and soft here. I'm more worried here about getting your forehead down to the mat. So if your hips are lifted off of your heels, that's totally fine. Does not have to be back, but maybe one day the hips will meet the heels. And feel free to stay here in this child's pose, or if you would like a little bit more of an intense stretch, we'll move into puppy pose. So for puppy pose, you'll want to take your feet, or sorry, not your feet, your knees, your knees hip width distance apart. Very similar. Hips are going to be stacked over your knees. Walk your hands forward and then sink the chest down into the mat. So this is going to be a really, really big chest opener, really big through the shoulders. You might even take your blanket and place it down for a little additional cushion here. It's totally fine. And as long as your hips stay stacked over your knees. Some of you may find it a little bit uncomfortable, so that's where you just want to stick with that child's pose. That's totally fine. If you're in that puppy dog pose, the chest is melting down into the mat, even if it doesn't connect. Toes can be tucked or untucked. Chin is forward in this melting heart puppy dog pose. And we'll just be here for a few rounds of breath. Take 3 more rounds wherever you are. One more round. Slowly come all the way up into a seated position. And this is where you might need your blanket and your pillow. You may or may not. We're going to come into a half hero's pose. So full hero is with your seat in between your feet with your knees together and your shins basically beside you. But we're going to do half that. So left foot is going to be around. I'll kind of turn to face you all. Left foot is going to be bent back. And then that right leg is going to be forward. So you're going to look like this to the side, okay? And you may notice that the top of the foot is a little sensitive, or maybe the knees are sensitive. This is where your blanket is going to come in handy, and you can feel free to tuck that wherever you want. Whatever feels good for you. Just know, again, the higher that knee is, the more it's going to take it out of the quad. So just be mindful of that. And then keep your pillow close because you may want it a little bit later. We're going to start with the hamstring stretch first. So that right leg is forward. And again, you can use any prop here on top of the leg. Really, it's at your heart's desire. Take it to what feels good for you. Take an inhale, find length into your spine, reach. And on your exhale, come forward. So thinking chin to shin, so that way your spine is nice and long and you're not rounding forward. If you round forward like this, it's gonna completely take it out of the hamstring. So just be mindful of that as you come forward. You can be on a pillow. You can ditch props altogether. That feels okay for you. And again, you could be reaching for the foot, shin, quad, whatever feels good for you. Your feet do not have to be flexed here. So it's just whatever feels good. Softening the gaze or closing your eyes altogether. And we'll just be here for a couple rounds of breath. If you have any distractions going on at home, whether it's kids or animals, television, know that it's okay that you're in this space of distractions. Whenever you feel your mind wandering towards those distractions, just try to come back. Just constantly bringing the mind back to the present moment, where you are right now. Take 3 rounds of breath. One more round, inhale. Come all the way back up through center. And then a couple options here to get into that quad stretch. So I like to place my pillow back behind me. And you may lower your forearms down and come back like this. And that's your quad stretch. You may be able to come all the way down and recline all the way back. You do, again, just be very mindful. You can take your arms out to cactus. You can bring them up and over your head. Or maybe even just having your leg in this position is a quad stretch enough. And if you're someone that doesn't feel this all that much, then you probably just have extremely open quads. So doing something like that lizard pose is a little bit better. If you want to move into that again, feel free. So whatever works best for you, any height. Maybe you have props, maybe you don't. Try not to let that knee move out to the left. Again, keeping it back in line with your hips. Just going to take about 3 to 4 deep breaths here. from here, there's no really pretty way to get out of it other than to walk your forearms back. And then from here, just shift the weight into the right leg. Swing that left leg around. Might feel a little bit of tingliness, a little bit of numbness, and that's totally fine. And you're just gonna switch sides. So shift the weight into that left foot, or I'm sorry, left hip, and then swing that right foot around. And then we'll start with that hamstring stretch first. So the knees are parallel in line with the hips. Take an inhale, reach. Use your prop to set yourself up as needed, and then fold. And your forearms can be down. Maybe your hands are just down. You feel it in your hamstring. It's perfect. Maybe closing the eyes or just softening the gaze. Focusing on consistency of breath here. Three rounds of breath. Inhale. Two more. And last one. Walk the hands all the way back. And then start to move into that reclined position, whatever feels good for you. Again, try not to let that knee move off to the right. Keep it nice and center. And then recline all the way back. If you are someone that is able to get all the way down into your back, I personally like to take arms up and overhead, grabbing opposite elbows. Just helps me open through my side body a little bit more. Always optional, you can just cactus out the arms, whatever feels good. And if you also notice that right knee lifting if you're lowering down, that's kind of a sign that you need to back off and you need to stay a little bit higher onto the forearms. And just ease yourself into it as needed. You're not here for a super duper long time. Just about 3 to 4 more breaths. Last one. Slowly come out of it. Just roll onto that left hip, swing that right leg around. Remove any props that you have, place them off to the sides. And then just bend through your knees, plant your feet down, reach your arms forward, long spine length. And then go ahead and roll one vertebrae at a time, all the way down to your mat. And then from here, go ahead and pick those knees up. Keeping them parallel again, cactus out your arms. Pick your hips up and over to the right. Drop those knees over to the left. Big spinal twist. Keeping the right shoulder flush with the floor. It's okay if those knees don't connect with the floor. As long as the right shoulder is down, that's great. If it feels good for your neck, you can look over the right shoulder. If not, just bring it back to center. With every inhale, your lungs are going to expand. Try to find a little bit more length. And then on your exhale, that's when you twist. So maybe taking that left hand on top of your knee, and you start to twist a little bit more. Couple rounds of breath, inhale. One more round. Come all the way back up through center. Pick the hips up and over to the left. Drop those knees over to the right. Keeping that left shoulder blade down. Again, if the knees don't connect, that's totally fine. Biggest thing here is that you're finding that big twist, starting to settle in, starting to turn even more inward, nearing the end of the practice, winding all the way down. Two big deep breaths here, inhale. Last one. Come back through center and feel free to polish off your practice with whatever feels good. I like to take happy babies by taking my hands onto the outsides of my feet and just kind of rocking side to side. If you're someone that has an inversion in your practice, like a handstand or a headstand or a shoulder stand, and that is calling your name, feel free to go for it. If you are ready to wind down, you are nearing the end of your practice and just kind of want to settle, then go ahead and take your blanket, optional as always, rolling it back up. And then just slide it under your knees for a little bit of softness. And then reclining all the way back, taking up as much space as you want. Your arms can be up and overhead. Your feet can just kind of fall out. Releasing any controlled breath. Eyes are closing. And just creating as much stillness as possible. Beginning to blur the lines between consciousness and unconsciousness. Enjoying these last few moments, the most important pose of all, Shavasana. Separation of life does not exist when you live breath by breath and moment by moment. There is only life itself happening right now. If you would like to stay in Shavasana, feel free to stay in as long as possible. If you're ready to come out of it, just find a fuller and deeper breath. We'll go through fingers and toes. Slowly come back to surface, come back to consciousness, then come into a comfortable seat. Keep the eyes closed. Draw the hands at heart center and bow the head towards your fingertips. Taking these last few moments, just to acknowledge yourself, taking this time out of your day to show up for yourself, giving back to yourself so that you can then give back to others. Draw the thumbs to the forehead center in honor of those that are in this space with us virtually. We hold each other in this safe place in order to practice self-love and self-nourishment. Thank you all so, so much for joining me. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you all so much. Of course, if you have any questions at all, thank you so much for dealing with all my awesome word fumbles today. Hope you guys were able to decipher what I was saying. Oh, happens to everybody, right? But if there's any recommendations, like Chanel had that dancer pose recommendation, if there's anything that you guys are like, oh, there's this part of my body, it feels really stiff and I really want to work it out. There's a particular style of yoga that would feel a little better, maybe slowing it down, speeding it up a little bit more, whatever you need, let me know, let Chanel know. Thank you so much, Chanel, for giving me the space to be able to teach you all. Again, I'm so sorry it has to be under these circumstances, but I'm glad I'm here.
I love that you're here.
Me too.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much for coming. And we will see you, Leah, next Monday, because I think we're in the quarantine for a while.
I think we are. We're going to be here.
That's all been known to us as of today. So we'll see you again next Monday, Leah.
See you next Monday. Bye.